I'm with Florida Agriculture Commissioner Adam Putnam, and welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be with you.
You've done so many things. You're 36 years old. You've served in the Florida legislature. You've served in the United States Congress, moving rapidly up to the number 3 ranking Republican in the Congress. And now you're Florida's Commissioner of Agriculture, coming from an agricultural background. Wow, how does it feel?
Well, it feels great to be back home in Florida. You know, after serving in the U.S. House of Representatives, which is it's a privilege to be there, but Washington can be a circus. I mean, it's a pretty dysfunctional place, no matter who's in charge. And I'm excited to be back home in Florida, to have the opportunity to actually get things done without finding 218 other people to agree with me. I get more done before noon than we could get done in a month in Washington.
Well, let's talk about your background just for a moment. Agriculture is in your blood. Talk about that.
Well, it is. It's in my DNA. I'm a 5th generation Florida farmer and rancher. My family's in the citrus business and the cattle business in the big city of Bartow, Florida, down in Polk County. And it has always been a part of my life. I grew up in 4-H and FFA, met my first Commissioner of Agriculture when I was 8 years old, and Commissioner Doyle Connor was walking through the show barns at the Polk County Youth Fair. So it is who I am, and it's who Florida is. I mean, we lose sight of the importance of agriculture in Florida, but it's the strongest pillar in our economy right now.
I don't think a lot of people know that. Follow up on that statement that it's the strongest pillar in our economy right now.
Well, you know, when people think of Florida, they certainly recognize that we're a world-class destination for tourists, and tourism is a huge part of our economy, and ordinarily it's number 1. Construction, particularly residential construction, and those two they're in the midst of some tough times, tourism and construction. And agriculture, it's not very glamorous. It's not at the tip of everyone's tongue in terms of being an economic driver for our state, but it is. It's a $100 billion industry for Florida. It employs hundreds of thousands of people, mostly in the interior of our state, but it also represents international export opportunities. It's part of our nation's food security. We feed the world in the wintertime. And agriculture, frankly, pays a lot of the bills for local governments, for school boards and local and municipal governments through their ad valorem tax base, without asking for a lot in return. You know, farms don't need fire hydrants, they don't need sheriff substations, they don't need schools, they don't need sewer lines. So they're paying into a system that they're not really drawing a lot out from. So this difficult economic time that we're facing has, I think, brought a renewed appreciation for the real economic impact agriculture represents to Florida.
Well, let's talk about the effect of this economy on Florida agriculture. Has it really been a serious impediment? Has it kind of slowed the growth of Florida agriculture and really hurt it in any perceivable way?
You know, in some ways it has been the opposite. The bursting of the real estate bubble made land affordable for agriculture again. I mean, at the rate we were going over the last decade, you couldn't justify putting cattle or pine trees or citrus or strawberries on land whose value had just shot through the roof. And so we were losing a lot of agricultural acreage to development. And now we're seeing a lot of things that were on the drawing board to be developed returning to their agricultural roots. We're seeing a broad return to the land movement where more and more people are concerned about buying locally and knowing where their food comes from. And we're seeing new commodities, energy crops, an abundance of blueberries and strawberries, peaches even being grown now in Florida. So it's a very dynamic industry, not only from a food production standpoint, but increasingly from an energy production standpoint and the life sciences, all kinds of new potential opportunities and breakthroughs coming from the land.
In addition to the economy, we've had a couple of bad winters. I mean, has the cold hurt any of our crops?
Absolutely. It's been 2010 was a terrible year from a weather standpoint. We started off in January of last year with 12 straight days of freezing temperatures all the way as far south as Lake Okeechobee. In fact, at one point it was in the low 20s in Homestead, which is sort of the last little town before you get to the Florida Keys. I mean, Florida's cold when you're getting that cold that far south. And then we ended 2010 with another series of freezes. And so we've sustained losses in the hundreds of millions of dollars to Florida agriculture, particularly those winter vegetables. And when that happens, it has a ripple effect throughout the economy. Other people feel it when our farms have those types of catastrophic events.
Well, you've been in this job for about a month now, and the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services has a huge reach over many different facets of Florida life, and you serve on the cabinet and have a lot to do. Let's talk about getting ready for the 2011 session and some of your top priorities that you've identified in your legislative package. One I know that you're concerned about is water allocation. There used to be range wars out west in the old west between cattle ranchers and sheep herders and so forth, but how to allocate water for various uses between various areas of the state and so forth. That's a big deal. What are your thoughts about water allocation?
Well, you know, the biggest short-term issue facing Florida is obviously getting this economy moving again and getting people back to work. But for the long term, the biggest issue facing Florida is water policy. And you can look at states like California where they've gotten it wrong, and it's just been devastating to communities and to industries. We look at just a couple of years ago what happened in Atlanta when they had not prepared for droughts. They had an extended drought, and they had very serious economic and quality of life issues because they just didn't have any water. And so this is an issue that doesn't only impact agriculture. You could live on the top floor of a condo tower on Miami Beach, and this issue will impact you. So as Floridians, we need to begin to think ahead and make the type of investments in alternative water supplies that allow us to grow the amount of water available for everyone.
Can you give us an example of that?
Desalination, where we're converting seawater into fresh water. It's an old technology. The Navy's been using it for decades. Caribbean countries have been using it. Middle Eastern countries have been using it. We've got a plant in the Tampa Bay area. There's more of that can be done. Using more reclaimed water, what they call gray water, to irrigate golf courses and lawns and parks and the common areas of subdivisions, helps us to conserve more water. And when we do that, we're eliminating the future range wars, those water wars, where you have coastal counties fighting with interior counties, or North Florida and South Florida at war over where to put a pipeline. We can avoid that fight, which is not helpful. It's not productive, it's not good for business, and it's not good for quality of life. So to avoid those range wars over water, we want to grow the size of the water pie for all users, for industry users, for the public, and for the environment.
Let's talk about energy, renewable sources of energy. I know that probably this is a big deal to you in terms of even creating economic opportunities for Florida, but we've got a lot of land out there still that can be developed for this kind of industry. Talk about that a little bit.
You know, the emergence of renewable energy is one of the hot debates right now, and where Florida is well positioned to play a role is what they call biomass. And biomass might be your lawn waste, your grass clippings from your yard. It might be agricultural waste, the oranges or the strawberries that didn't make the grade, and instead of sending them to the landfill, we can convert them to energy, or actual crops grown for the purpose of producing energy. And that what makes Florida unique is we're not going to drive up the price of food in doing that. And when you have sort of this corn-based energy policy like what we have in the United States that's driven by the Midwest, it drives up food prices. In Florida, we can use a lot of land in the interior of our state that currently is underutilized. It may be cattle pasture land or range land or completely unused land, and grow crops that are complementary to food crops, and use that to either produce electricity or to produce what they call cellulosic ethanol. So it's a mobile fuel. We have a year-round growing season here in Florida. So it's not an issue to continue to harvest those crops right through January and February. In North Florida, the timber industry is a great asset to that renewable energy option that's out there. And so government should not be picking winners and losers. Government shouldn't say we're going to pick solar over biomass or biomass over wind. We need to let the marketplace decide that. But Florida is well positioned to create jobs, high-paying jobs, the infrastructure that goes with those new technologies and the jobs that infrastructure creates, particularly in our rural communities, in a way that's beneficial to future generations of Floridians, that also keeps that land in agricultural uses.
Commissioner, thank you for joining us, and we hope you'll join us again throughout your tenure.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you.